You think you own your home? Think again. Every deed, every title, every property claim in the Western world is written in blood. This is the story they don't want you to know. The story of how conquest became law and murder became ownership. 14th century Europe. Kings and lords didn't just rule land. They invented the very concept of owning it. Before this, land belonged to communities, to tribes, to the people who lived on it for generations. But then came the doctrine of divine right, the twisted idea that God himself granted monarchs the power to claim birth itself. 1455, Pope Nicholas V issues a papal bull, a decree that would shape centuries of genocide, the doctrine of discovery. It gave Christian explorers the legal right to claim any land inhabited by non-Christians. Read that again. Legal right to steal. The church didn't just bless conquest, it weaponized it into law. They called it the New World. New to who? Millions already lived there. Thriving civilizations. Complex societies. But to European powers, these people were invisible. Why? Because they didn't have paper. No deeds, no titles, no concept that Earth could be owned like a horse or a sword. When Columbus planted that flag in 1492, he wasn't discovering anything. He was declaring theft. That piece of cloth meant this land, occupied for 10,000 years, now belongs to Spain. And the indigenous people, they had no idea they'd just become trespassers in their own home. Spain created the Requerimiento, a legal document read aloud to native peoples in Spanish, a language they didn't understand. It demanded they accept Christianity and Spanish rule. If they refused, quote, "We shall take you and your wives and children and make slaves of them." This wasn't law. This was a murder manual with a legal stamp. The British took this system and perfected it. Terra nullius, Latin for nobody's land. They looked at Australia, saw 60,000 years of Aboriginal civilization, and legally declared nobody lives here. How do you steal a continent? You make a law that says it was never stolen. North America. Over 500 treaties signed with Native American nations. The United States violated every single one. Every single one. Land promises broken before the ink dried. Why? Because underneath those promises was always the same truth. We want your land, and we have the guns to take it. 1862, the Homestead Act. America gave away 270 million acres of public land. Public? It was stolen. The government was giving away property they murdered people to obtain. And we call this the American dream. The dream was built on a nightmare. Someone else was forced to live. Then came World War I. 20 million dead. But here's what they don't teach you. This war wasn't just about politics. It was about property. Colonial empires fighting over who controls Africa, Asia, Middle East. Every trench, every death, it was a property dispute written in human blood. When the Ottoman Empire collapsed, Britain and France didn't liberate anyone. They carved up the Middle East like a birthday cake. The Sykes-Picot Agreement, 2 diplomats with a pencil and a map created borders that ignored tribes, cultures, religions. They invented countries. And we wonder why that region has known nothing but war since. A Treaty of Versailles didn't just end World War I. It redistributed property on a scale never seen before. Germany's colonies, gone, divided among the victors. Millions of Africans, Pacific Islanders, Middle Easterners woke up under new masters. The war to end all wars? No. It was the largest property seizure in modern history. Between the wars, something sinister evolved. Property became pure finance. Land wasn't about living anymore. It was about speculation. Banks, corporations, wealthy elites buying land not to use, but to control. The 1920s real estate bubble in Florida, in California, millions lost everything. Property ownership became a casino where the house always wins. 1933, Hitler rises. The Nuremberg laws didn't just persecute Jews. They legalized the theft of their property. Homes, businesses, land, all confiscated. Aryanization, they called it. Steal everything, make it legal, call it racial purity. This wasn't just genocide. It was the industrial-scale theft of generational wealth, backed by law. Lebensraum, living space, Hitler's justification for World War II. Germany needed land, so they would take it. Sound familiar? It's the same logic used to colonize America, Australia, Africa. The only difference, Hitler did it in Europe to white people, and suddenly the world called it evil. The method was old. The location was new. World War II wasn't just about ideology. It was about property on a global scale. Hitler wanted Eastern Europe's land. Japan wanted Asia's resources. Italy wanted Africa's territories. 70 million people died in a war about who controls what. The Holocaust murdered 6 million Jews. But here's what's rarely discussed: the systematic theft. Every victim's property, cataloged, stolen, redistributed. Homes given to German families. Businesses sold. Alt collections looted. Genocide wasn't just murder. It was the most efficient property transfer in history. And most of it was never returned. The Eastern Front. 20 million Soviets dead. But after the war, 30 million people forcibly moved. Entire populations relocated. Germans expelled from Poland. Poles moved west. Borders redrawn. Properties seized. Imagine, you survive the war, only to be told your home now belongs to someone else. Legal theft, courtesy of the Yalta Conference. Yalta, February 1945. 3 men, Churchill, Roosevelt, Stalin, divided Europe with a pencil. They didn't ask the people. They didn't care about property rights or sovereignty. Eastern Europe, Stalin's. Western Europe, Allied control. Millions of property owners discovered their deeds meant nothing when superpowers decided their fate. The Marshall Plan rebuilt Europe with $13 billion. Generous, right? Look closer. American corporations got contracts. American banks financed reconstruction. American businesses gained access to European markets. It wasn't charity. It was the largest property and economic takeover in peacetime history. Wrapped in the language of friendship, 1948. Israel declares independence. 700,000 Palestinians flee or are expelled. Their homes demolished or given to Israeli settlers. The Israeli absentee property law made it legal. If you fled during the war, even temporarily, your property was forfeited. Imagine, you leave for safety, return to find someone else living in your home, and the law says it's theirs now. They call it the Nakba, the catastrophe. But legally, it was called land reclamation. 418 Palestinian villages erased, not just destroyed, erased from maps, renamed, replanted, made to look like they never existed. How do you steal land in the modern world? You don't just take it. You rewrite history so it was never stolen. After World War II, European powers promised freedom to their colonies. They lied. Britain, France, Belgium, Portugal fought brutal wars to keep control. Why? Property, plantations, mines, resources, land. Independence movements weren't just political. They were property disputes. Who owns the wealth of Africa? The people who live there, or the Europeans who claimed it? The 1950s brought a new colonizer, the corporation. United Fruit Company overthrew governments in Central America. Oil companies redrew Middle Eastern politics. Mining corporations carved up Africa. Property ownership evolved. Now companies, not countries, controlled land. And they had something empires didn't. They were immortal. Post-war America. The suburbs boom. The American dream, right? Wrong. Look at the fine print. Redlining. Banks legally refused mortgages to black families in certain neighborhoods. The Federal Housing Administration's own manual recommended racial segregation. Property ownership became a weapon of segregation. Wealth built for whites denied to blacks. Legal, systematic, devastating, eminent domain, the government's power to seize private property for public use. Sounds reasonable. But from the 1950s through the 1970s, American cities used it to destroy black and immigrant neighborhoods. They called it urban renewal. The communities called it Negro removal. Take the land, build highways or stadiums, displace thousands. Legal theft, stamped by judges. Vietnam. We're told it was about stopping communism. But dig deeper. It was about property. Land reform. Vietnamese peasants wanted to own the land they farmed. American policy supported landlords who owned massive estates. Operation Ranch Hand destroyed 4 million acres of Vietnamese farmland. Why? Control the land, control the people. 1944. Before World War II even ended, they were planning the new financial order. Bretton Woods, the IMF, the World Bank. These institutions would lend money to developing nations with conditions. Conditions that often required selling state assets, privatizing land, opening markets. Debt became the new colonialism. You don't need armies when you control the money.
African nations gained independence through the 1960s, but true economic independence never granted. Former colonial powers kept control of banks, mines, plantations through contracts signed under duress. France still controls the currency of 14 African nations through the CFA franc. Independence on paper, economic colonialism in practice.
The 1970s changed everything. Property became pure finance, mortgages bundled and sold, land speculation by pension funds, REITs turning homes into stock portfolios. The connection between property and people severed. Now, a bank in New York could own 10,000 homes in Arizona, never seeing them, just extracting rent. Property without presence, ownership without humanity. 1989, the savings and loan crisis. 1,000 American banks failed. Who paid? Taxpayers, $125 billion. But here's the crime. Executives walked away rich. Properties foreclosed, sold at pennies on the dollar to investors. Every crisis becomes an opportunity for the wealthy to buy more property. The pattern repeats. The players change. The theft continues. 1991. Soviet Union collapses. Communism dies. Capitalism wins. Except, state property didn't go to the people. It went to oligarchs. In Russia, a small group of men bought entire industries for nothing. Mikhail Khodorkovsky bought Yukos Oil, worth billions, for $300 million. The largest property heist in history, called privatization. 2008. The pattern repeats. Banks gave mortgages to people who couldn't afford them, bundled the debt, sold it as safe investments. The bubble burst. 10 million Americans foreclosed, lost their homes, and the banks bailed out. 700 billion taxpayer dollars. The people who caused the crisis were rescued. The people who lost everything told it was their fault. After 2008, private equity firms like Blackstone bought 100,000 foreclosed homes at fire sale prices, then rented them back to the families who lost them at higher rates.
The American dream of ownership became the American reality of permanent rent. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. They weren't predicting, they were planning. Meanwhile, in China, ghost cities, entire urban centers built for no one. Why? Property as investment. Chinese law doesn't allow freehold ownership, only 70-year leases, but that doesn't stop speculation. Millions of empty apartments, while millions lack affordable housing. Property disconnected from human need. It's global now. In Palestine, the cycle continues. Israeli settlements built on occupied land. Palestinian homes demolished for lack of permits. Permits the Israeli government refuses to issue. Property law as ethnic cleansing. The method is old. The technology is new, but the logic identical to 1492. This land is now ours because we say so, and we have the power to make it true. Today, London, New York, Vancouver, Sydney, Hong Kong. Luxury apartments sit empty, bought by foreign investors as safe deposit boxes for wealth. Meanwhile, homelessness explodes. There are more empty homes in America than homeless people. But we don't have a housing shortage. We have a distribution crisis. Property hoarded while people suffer. And the indigenous fight never ended. Standing Rock, Wet'suwet'en, pipeline protests, land defenders arrested on their own ancestral territory, because in law, they're still trespassers. Every property deed in the Western world traces back to violence, to theft, to documents written by conquerors. And when Native people say this land was stolen, the legal response is, too bad. The statute of limitations expired.
So here's the truth they won't teach you in school. Property ownership is a useful fiction built on historical violence. Every deed is a descendant of conquest. Every title traces to someone who had power to claim what others possessed. From the papal bulls of 1455 to the foreclosure notices of 2008, the pattern is identical. Property rights are determined by power, legalized by law, and defended by force. You don't own your home because it's yours. You own it because the system recognizes your claim, for now. And that system? It was invented by people who killed for land and called it civilization. This is the history of property. This is the truth of ownership. This is how we got here. The question is, where do we go from here?
Question everything you were taught about ownership.